In the last month and a half, I think I've slept in my own bed about less than 10 days. We've been on the road a lot and taken a lot of photos. During this video, we're going to talk about our trips and show you some of the images and also give you some tips so you can take better pictures on your vacation. Hello, welcome to this video on Photography TV. We're here to educate, entertain, and inspire you around photography. Now, I wanted to make this specific video for a couple of reasons. First, for the last month and a half or so, we've been gone a lot. We being my family and I, out on the road, taking vacations, getting out, seeing a lot of different sites. And what it's caused is I have not been able to keep up with the channel as much as I'd like. So if you've noticed a little bit of a drop in the number of videos, I apologize. But during this video, I'm going to show you why I've been gone a little bit and show you some of the images from our trips. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But in addition, I got a comment on our most recent video with Mike Brown. I asked, what do people want to learn? And Nick Favor replied that he wanted to learn perhaps how to move from the family vacation snaps to pictures that can be displayed on the wall. And so at the end of this video, I'm gonna give you 3 tips that can help improve your family vacations. But before I get to those tips, let's talk about where we've been going and show you some of the images from our recent trips. So we've traveled a lot, my family and I, and we went on a road trip across the United States. That's always been a dream of mine. We have an old motorhome that we took and we drove about 5,000 miles in total. And so we live in Texas. We started out in Texas and we drove straight up the middle of the United States, and our first destination was the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We have some friends that live there, and so that was basically a few days, almost close to a week, right on the lake, getting out, tubing as you can see, and just enjoying Lake Superior, which is absolutely awesome. That was the beginning of the trip, heading all the way from Texas to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Now from there, we actually drove down to Chicago, Illinois. That's where my sister lives, so we visited her, went and checked out the city of Chicago, and my family stayed there for a week, and I sadly had to work, so I flew from Chicago back to the DFW area, and I worked for a week while they stayed there. Then I turned back around after working for a week and flew back to Chicago, where I met my family back up, and that's when we headed west. And so from Chicago, we drove west, and first stop after that was Badlands National Park. Now the Badlands was absolutely awesome because first and foremost, my kids are young, they love being active, and I went into the ranger station, I asked the park ranger, I said, hey, my kids love to be active, they love to climb and explore, what should we do? And her response was, hey, here at the Badlands, we have different trails, but we have what's called free hike, which means you can go anywhere you want. You can explore and climb on different rocks and go wherever you want. It's open, free hike. And my kids absolutely loved that. It was an awesome destination. As you can see, a lot of cool photographs, just candid shots of the kids exploring the rock formations and things like that at Badlands. And from a photography perspective, which is obviously why you're all watching, night photography at the Badlands was incredible. And I probably didn't even capture as good a shots as I could have or should have, but I got a few nights where I got out and just saw all the stars, but absolutely incredible for night photography at Badlands National Park. All right, we're still just getting started. So from Badlands National Park, we kept going west and we went and saw Mount Rushmore. Now, what was super cool at Mount Rushmore was I had rented a Tamron 150 to 600 lens, the version 2, which fit on my Sony. I'm gonna do a review of that soon. And what was cool about Mount Rushmore is that was the first time I was able to pull out that really big lens and zoom all the way in on Mount Rushmore and try to get some really tight shots of the rock formations of the presidents. Really super cool, fun experience there at Mount Rushmore. From there, we kept going west. We spent a day at Rapid City, just exploring, having fun on an alpine slide. And then from South Dakota, that's when we, again, kept going west and we went through Wyoming. A fun shot, this is probably one of my just favorite shots of the trip. It kind of just summed up what we were doing. I took my drone, I flew it up high, and I took a wide shot of our motorhome, pulling my car, the state sign of Wyoming right there. And that just kind of encompassed the trip that we were on, taking a road trip across the United States. The then destination at the end of this particular leg of the trip was Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone is an incredible photography destination. So many things to shoot there, landscapes, the geysers, all the thermal features, etc. But what I found to be the most exciting to photograph at Yellowstone was the wildlife. And my kids absolutely loved it. So what we did each morning was wake up really early, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, get up, drive out to different locations and try to see wildlife. And again, that's why I rented that 150 to 600 lens, because I knew I would need that extra reach. And you could see some of the different wildlife shots that we were able to capture while we were out there. Yellowstone was absolutely incredible for wildlife. Right next to Yellowstone, or right south of it, is Grand Tetons National Park, another incredible national park. My favorite thing to shoot there were the Tetons. You can see we went out to this famous barn. I forget the name of it right offhand, but I'll flash it up here on the screen, and took this shot in the morning. This was more of a landscape. It's a very famous shot. By no means is it original, but I had to go out there and try to take it because I've seen it so many different times. I want to try to capture it on my own. So it was a fun one there at Grand Teton National Park. And then on this particular road trip, we had one more destination, which was heading down to Colorado. And we stayed at Estes Park, Colorado. And there's just a lot of outdoor activities that we could do. We went horseback riding, which my older two went horseback riding. My youngest really wasn't up for it. But older two and I went horseback riding and they loved it. And then the whole family, we rented ATVs. And the fun part was it had been raining. So we went out into the ATV, sloshing around the mud, having fun, getting out there. The bad news is I lost my phone. That was a bummer. But man, sloshing around the rain and the mud and the ATVs was a ton of fun there in Estes Park. And then within Rocky Mountain National Park, which is right next to Estes Park, Colorado, Ethan and I put on our backpacks and headed into the backcountry of Rocky Mountain National Park. And we spent one night, overnight, there in Rocky Mountain National Park, which I've done a lot of, not a lot, but I've done backpacking before. But this was Ethan's first experience throwing the backpack on, heading out there, and he absolutely loved it. It was a fun time. From Colorado, we hit the long drive all the way back to Texas, and that was the first wave of travel that we had going on the last month and a half or so. It was the road trip, 5,000 miles across the United States. But that wasn't the end of it. Got back, had a week or so, maybe a week and a half at home, finally, and then Haley and I, daddy-daughter trip, flew out to New York City. It had been her dream. She'd always talked about going to see the Statue of Liberty. So it was a belated birthday present for her. I took her out New York City, spent a couple days there, seeing the Statue of Liberty. That's what she most wanted to see. Fun thing to try to photograph. Try to get some different, unique shots there, and just having fun with her more than anything. Went to a Broadway show, all the good stuff that you can do there in New York City. But from New York City, I flew back home with her, and immediately I landed, met my parents at the airport. Haley went with my parents, and I had to turn around, go back through security, and get on a plane. Didn't even get to go home. Back on a plane, headed back to Manchester, New Hampshire. This was work related, so not a lot of fun photography stuff, but just more reasons I've been away so much. Manchester, New Hampshire for work. Then I went down to Boston for work. Then down to Rhode Island for work, which then flew down to Richmond, Virginia for work. You get the theme here, a lot of work, a lot of travel up the eastern seaboard there, and then flew home, which was kind of the end of that leg of travel. So I've been gone a lot the last month and a half. Sadly, tomorrow I have to fly back to Boston just for a day. But that's why perhaps the video has been a little bit less frequent, but a ton of experiences, tons of great photos. I hope to share more of those trips in depth with you as part of our travel photography series. But I want to give you that update on where we've been, what we've been doing, and the fun that we've been having traveling around. And so now I'm going to give you 3 tips that I believe can help improve your photographs on family vacations. And again, it comes from a comment from Nick where he said, how do we move from the family vacation snaps to pictures that can be hung on the wall? Well, You can interpret that comment a few different ways. So first off, what do we mean by can be hung on the wall? Are we trying to hang it on our wall and we want pictures of our family and we just want better pictures of our family? Or are we looking to get pictures that we could actually hang on anyone's wall and more of those landscape, photograph type shots that can be hung on anyone's wall, more of a keeper, so to speak. So I'll give you a few tips depending on which one you're looking for. Let's start with the family shots. Let's assume you just want to up your game on the family shots so that you don't just have the normal family snapshot, family looking at the camera saying cheese. Let's talk about that first. So my tip there, to improve your family photos on vacations, the first thing is to resist the urge to say cheese. You're definitely going to want a few of those shots, right? Where the whole family's looking at the camera, you got the great scene in the background. You got to get those. Those are easy. But to get the shots that really cherish that family trip, that you want to put up on the wall, that you look at and it just brings back a memory, are the candid shots. And that's why I say resist the urge to say cheese. Have your camera by your side. Don't have it up to your eye the whole time, obviously. Have it by your side, be ready to go. And when a moment's happening, you just want to cherish, know your camera well enough that you can pull it up, hit the settings that you want, and get a quick composition and take the shot. You'll find that if you do that consistently, you'll be quick enough. It's not even in the way. It's not even taken away from the experience. But the more you can get those candid shots, again, my kids out climbing at the Badlands, just having fun, whatever it is, those candid type shots in my mind are what I cherish the most from family vacations. So that's one tip. Resist the urge to say cheese. Go for more of those candid shots that really cherish the memories. Now, let's look on the flip side. What if you actually want just pictures that you can hang on anyone's wall that are that good of a picture that your friend would want to hang it on their wall? So it's obviously not your family, but more the destination that you went to. The tip that I'm going to give you there is get up early and stay out late. And the premise behind that is plan ahead, because it's really hard to get an amazing photograph based on your schedule and your timing, meaning, I'm going to go out to see the Statue of Liberty at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, at that point, the light's terrible. It's not very good. Statue of Liberty is not a good example because when I went to New York City with my daughter, we kind of just went at noon. But it wasn't a photography trip, right? But if you want to capture those great, stunning shots, go out early or stay out late. So let me give you some examples. I didn't do a lot of specific photography on that road trip that I went on, but there were a few mornings where I was able to get out early, or evenings that I stayed out late. The Tetons is a good example. You can see here this shot, I think is a good photo that I'd be proud to hang on a wall. Or the wildlife shots. Again, all these happened because we got out really early and planned ahead for where we wanted to go, what we wanted to capture. That's absolutely key to get some of those photos that really separate themselves from just a standard pick, is planning ahead, get out early, stay out late. And then the third tip I'm going to give you on this is post-processing. I think where a lot of people's photos just look average, even if it's a really good moment or a good composition, whatever it is, they still don't really pop because they're not processed as well as they could be. A lot of times people just shoot in JPEG and let the camera process it, but you'd be amazed how you can take a normal snap, as this comment said, and with just a little bit of post-processing, you can really make it pop. I'm going to use an example from the Statue of Liberty here. This was a shot that I literally just looked up the Statue of Liberty and took. Pretty standard snapshot. Nothing that I necessarily want to put on a wall. But when I was post-processing, I got a little creative idea and was able to tweak it by really cropping in and zoning in just on the torch. And then I was able to bring down the colors of the sky, almost basically desaturate them so that the copper, which is now green, of the torch really pops. And I think the composition of it is unique and it's a different perspective that's all done in post-processing. I didn't have the lens to get this tight on a shot on its own. This all happened in post-processing, and I thought this shot was unique. It's not the best shot of the trip or anything like that, but it's just an example of how you can take a normal snapshot that doesn't really do anything special, and with a little bit of post-processing, you can really elevate it quite a bit. So there's a few tips to help you move from just normal family snaps to perhaps things that you want to hang on the wall, whether it's of your own family, those memories, or getting up early, getting that perfect light, that perfect conditions, and adding that post-processing tip. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing where we've been, what we've been doing. More videos on that trip to come for sure. Please subscribe to us here on Photography TV to follow along. Cheers.